Hello everyone, this is the psychic prediction video for February 2026. February is looking like a month of international tension. In this video I will be describing my visions of events to come in the month of February, as well as world news, Bitcoin price predictions, as well as stocks and silver, and some general advice for the month. Today's date is currently January 27th. And these predictions are specifically for the month of February. I was seeing giant boats at sea. This was the first thing that came to me when I tuned into the month of February. These appear to be oil tankers owned by Russia. It looks like Trump will be putting more pressure on oil trade routes, is the sense I was getting. This pressure does seem to have long-term effects for the world, for geopolitics, as far as the political pressure. Donald Trump is, I don't know exactly what he's going to do, but there's something regarding oil tankers with Russia Trump is trying to interfere with, have his way with. I do see Russia stand their ground for the month, at least in February, but longer term it does seem to have some sort of negative effect towards Russia over time. I do see Putin writing out some sort of agreement for Trump to sign, and Trump signs it. However, this may have been more of a metaphoric vision rather than something that Trump literally signs. I believe that it more so represents some sort of agreement that may or may not be requiring a literal signature. Overall, it seems that international pressures from many sides will ramp up, but ultimately Trump will end up backing down and allowing something to happen for the boat situation, for the oil tanker situation. Russia seems to take a small blow overall in the month of February, but I see them overall winning their right to keep their trade routes. There may even be a threat of a nuclear submarine involved. But I don't see this nuclear threat being used, so that's a good thing. Moving on to Greenland. I don't believe that Trump's threats towards Greenland were truly part of his negotiating strategy, as some claim, because some say that he wasn't really actually going to do anything and didn't really expect to actually own Greenland, but was using it as a negotiating strategy to build the pressure. I don't see that being the case, but instead it seems he really did want to own all of Greenland, and he had to compromise because it wasn't working out. I believe this because in my recent 2026 year prediction video that I made before January 2026, of course, what came through for me and what I said in the video was, quote, "I sense international politics overpowering him when he thought he could overpower them. Trump will be forced into agreements with other countries he doesn't really like, but he will play it off like it was an accomplishment of his own." And that's what I said before the year started. I believe this applies to Greenland, but in the same video I saw a major shift in geopolitics, which we are now starting to see play out. For example, in my 2026 year prediction, I also said, in this a quote, "I saw a vision of Trump sending planes with gear to help Russia and China after making new deals with them. This doesn't mean we will be on their side, but there will be more collaboration. Trump can't beat them, so join them. However, it looks like Trump gets played by Putin." And that's what I wrote for the 2026 prediction. This sounded a little crazy at first, but now it's starting to make more sense with news headlines recently coming out saying things like, "Putin says Russia ready to contribute $1 billion to Trump's Board of Peace." And if you don't know yet, Trump asked Russia to join his new Board of Peace, which is a new political organization that could replace NATO, potentially. This also correlates with my prediction that I made in the 2026 prediction video that the EU eventually, not for 2026, but within the next 10 years or so, the EU may dissolve, and aspects of the Federal Reserve will also dissolve into a bigger network shared with many European countries and the US. And you can find more details about that on my 2026 psychic prediction video for the full year. I will leave the link in the description of this video below the video. Moving on to visions of the Iran protests. So last month I saw escalating violence in the Middle East that I mistook as a war. It turned out to be Iran's protests, which have gotten a little violent. So NPR says at least 6,126 people have been killed in Iran's protest crackdowns, which could explain why I mistook it for being a war. I saw Trump feeling, and I described him as a ticking time bomb in the previous month regarding this, but regardless of him feeling like he's a ticking time bomb, and him trying to control the situation, he would be trying to control it without directly engaging in conflict, even though he may feel like he's about to explode. Which is what has happened. He hasn't actually attacked anyone or done anything like that. I also said that there would be more protests in the 2026 prediction video, similar to the UK protests, which would spread around the world. And that is basically what is going on here, although I do expect this to be much bigger, more so around the world in many different countries, rebelling against their different leaders. I will discuss how this affects the US later in this video. Also predicted last month that Russia would ramp up attacks on Ukraine and take more land, which has been happening. For February, Putin seems to be slowing down on attacks and trying to negotiate on his terms, which is a change from what I have seen from the previous couple of years, where Putin isn't too interested in talking things out, despite maybe saying he is, but now I kind of sense that he really is more so on that level. However, I don't see that his demands will be met quite yet, at least not for February, and so things will continue on with Ukraine. Now, Iran, potentially there could be some sort of conflict that still happens in January, because I did say that I mistook the protests as a war. It's possible there may be some sort of attacks that happen as well due to that within January, because it's January 27th, so we've got until the end of the month. But as far as next month, as far as February goes, I don't really see that happening. Moving on to Israel. Last month I saw Netanyahu feeling tense, and I previously said this seems to be an indication that there is a rising conflict involving cooperating groups that he isn't able to beat down after all. Recent news says he has been accusing Hezbollah of rearming with Iranian support. Netanyahu has pushed back against U.S. requests to delay operations in Lebanon to allow dialogue, warning of Hezbollah's reconstitution efforts. Last month I said, quote, "I see tanks as if to indicate boots on the ground conflict." So there were no full-scale boots on the ground conflicts related to Israel, but I think the vision was still accurate in the sense that there was a tank event that did happen. On January 12th, there was an incident involving, and this is a quote from the news, 2 Merkava tanks moving from an IDF, Israel Defense Force position inside Lebanese territory near Sarda in southern Lebanon, further into Lebanon. They're heading further into Lebanon. One of the tanks then fired 3 shells from its main gun with impacts about 150 meters from the United Nations interim force in Lebanon. These people were peacekeepers. No injuries occurred and the tanks withdrew after about 30 minutes. UNIFIL, which stands for the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, requested they stop and issued a stop fire demand to the Israel Defense Force. This seems to be the tank incident that I was seeing for January. For February, I sense Netanyahu feeling frustrated that he can't do much against what he feels are his enemies coordinating future attacks against him. It seems there may be a break in major escalations, or a pause in major escalations for Israel, until around late March or April of this year, at which point I see major clashes starting up again, coming from east of Israel. Now, I don't know exactly which country in particular, but Iran is to the east of Israel, so it is possible that it could be Iran, and very likely to be. At this point, if you've watched this video so far, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for monthly predictions every month before the month starts. And here we go with Bitcoin. Moving on to Bitcoin. Last month I described it for January as volatility with the possibility of going near 80K potentially. It reached 86K but did not have as much downward volatility as I thought it might. Moving on to February, it looks like an overall good month for Bitcoin, especially the mid-month. It looks like it could go a little higher than it did in January, flirting with 100K, potentially, although probably not quite reaching 100K, maybe just a little bit below. Previously, I saw the following month of March being an important month for Bitcoin with some big losses. But now I am seeing a rise at the start of the month to offset any major drops in March. So it could go up at the beginning and come down towards the end. I'm not detecting any major drops in the price below what we have already seen since when I saw the price drop in late 2025, which materialized in November of 2025 being the major dropping point for the price of Bitcoin. It looks like around June or so we could be back up near previous high levels again. For more information on my visions of Bitcoin and hundreds of crypto predictions, you can join my Patreon, of course. I have predicted a flattening for the stock market gains over the past 3 to 4 months, which has happened. We have seen the increasing gains kind of flatten for the most part, with some volatility, of course, but overall it's just been going sideways for the most part. After these 3 to 4 months, which are ending about now, February, coming up here, seems to be where this trend breaks, and there are more gains again in the stock market. It is a modest gain, but it seems to be picking up traction for February. Nothing huge, though. Silver prices look like they may slow down a bit, but not very much. It still looks like some good gains, or I would say really good gains for silver moving into February. Numbers can be off, but I would guess potentially maybe another 30% price increase for silver, although I cannot make any promises here And this is not investment advice. This is just my predictions. So take it with a grain of salt. Take it for whatever it's worth. World news. For February, I see Trump making deals with the UN or NATO. I'm not sure which one of those. And it seems to be somewhere in between a compromise and getting what he wants. This seems to be related to strengthening international security of some sort. This will be a continuation of political tension from January that we've already been experiencing. Geopolitical tensions seem strong at the start of the month, but fade as the month goes on. So moving on to protests in the U.S., I do see that this may happen, or is likely to happen in February, but the major protesting that I predicted for 2026 seems to come later in the coming months. I do see mostly peaceful protests in the U.S. for February, but which may get more intense later into the year. Regarding Iran and the protests going on there, I do not get the sense that Trump will intervene in those protests. I don't sense that the threats are real that he was sending to Iran, but they are more of a bluff in order to encourage a stronger protest to destabilize their country from within. This is not a critique of the movement or the protest on my end, but rather that Trump is taking advantage of the situation to serve his political goals. He will continue to allow the protests to do the work for him against his enemies, which is the government of Iran, which is what the protests are protesting against. Regarding space travel news, just randomly something that showed up in my mind was I saw a flag on a different planet, and I don't believe this is literally going to a different planet, but it seems to represent humanity's influence in outer space coming up in the news, and that being a big deal in February. I also got the sense of people giving birth, which is kind of uncommon or unusual to show up in these readings. I do believe this to be literal and metaphoric in the sense that babies are being born this month with souls that are here to shift the frequency of Earth in a major way. They are shifting our frequency simply by coming into existence because of the energetic programming that they are being born with and bringing into this reality. February seems to be a major step towards what many call the new Earth frequencies. And that is partially because of these frequencies of new children being born into our reality, but also just a shifting that's been going on for a while now. Overall energy of the month: political tensions are high, which is creating pressure and forcing major changes in human consciousness. There may be doom and devastation in the mind, but we are truly awakening to the reality around us. So when I ask what is the month good for, I get that February is good for basking in the sunlight or anything that which you truly enjoy. The world is a tough place in February, so it is very beneficial to find that spark within you and allow it to grow without allowing the circumstances to stomp it out. This can be a good month for a little indulgence, potentially. It is good to pay attention to your body and give it what it wants. It's good to meditate on how you feel below the surface of normal consciousness and allow yourself to heal what may normally get swept under the rug. This is also a great month to look within and give yourself what you need to feel good in your body, even if it's something simple like a piece of clothing that makes you feel good, or doing something nice to your living space, or your house, or your living room, whatever it may be, maybe your bedroom. February is bad for rioting. That was specifically popped in my mind. It will not be tolerated, and this month's energy is more aligned with healing from within. Also not a good month for worrying about money, which is the opposite of what I said last month. January was a good month for thinking about money. Now it's not so much. Also a bad month for holding on to specific plans. Instead, February has more of the energy of going with the flow. Going out too much, or like going out to do things too much, getting out of the house too much, that can be a good thing. But this month it seems like it's not really that great. That and spreading yourself too thin are both things to avoid for the month of February. This month will have tension, but there is a strong ability to heal from within in this month, which can have profound effects on your reality, bigger than you may imagine when you heal from the inside outward. Now, speaking of which, I do have a psychic development class coming up next month on March 8th. I guess that's technically in 2 months from today, but kind of next month by the time you may be watching this. I have determined that this time of making the class resonates energetically with the shifts taking place for humanity around this time. I will teach the exact techniques that I was taught to do what I do to get me the techniques that got me to where I am today, that I use currently. You will also receive 2 readings from me that are about you energetically, where I will read your energy, and I will give you guidance on how to get more out of the training. And again, I'll do that twice throughout the training. The link to this class, if you want to take it, is in the description for the 6-week training class. It's only $170 for 6 weeks, and guidance from me throughout the whole thing. March 8th, again, starts March 8th, and it will be with a pre-recorded class in order to make the scheduling easier. Also, the first class is free and accessible to anyone who simply goes to the link for the first free class. So you can do that for free. The link will be below this video for the Psychic Development Meditation course. Now, something else that came up this month, way back, well, really, it came up this month, but way back in 2021, on January 6th, there was a pipe bomber who was caught recently now, named Brian Cole. But apparently the pipe bomb incident happened in 2021. What I see, well, first off, what a lot of people say about him is that he was maybe falsely accused. But what I see around him is that he has no anger towards his prosecution, and he seems to not really be emotionally at odds with it. So he seems to be guilty as he's been charged. I don't see there being any sense of him being falsely accused. I'm sharing this from my Patreon. This is something that I posted within the last month, which you can join and read for free if you would like. This last month on my Patreon, I also did 3 blind readings on 6-digit codes, not knowing who they represented until later, finding out later that I was doing a blind reading on Janet Yellen, as well as a man thought to be Shakespeare, and Jane Roberts, who channeled the Seth material. The blind reading protocol is done to find the truth behind important people in the world by borrowing a remote viewing technique to keep me blind to the target so as to not have my own preconceived ideas and opinions influence the reading. I'm still building my psychic reading encyclopedia, as I like to call it, which is my Patreon page, reading world leaders and important people. But I currently am building it, but I also already have hundreds of different people on it, which you can have access to for free with a 7-day trial, which you can cancel at any time. And some other things really quick that I have gone over within the last month on my Patreon are oil prices, the future of the US dollar, gold, silver reevaluations, royal family members, future flooding of the world, Iran, future predictions in World War III, future of Venezuela and oil, and China, astronauts returning early, insectoid aliens, and pyramids. Of course, I also have hundreds of altcoin predictions as well, and years of blind readings of people of importance to humanity. So the links to all of these things, including the course coming up in March, will be posted below this video. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Give this video a thumbs up if you have not yet, and leave a comment in the comments section for the algorithm if you want to help me out. Thank you very much and have a great day.